Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in tonight. This is Poppa Redwood with a very special story, if not a little different. Once again, we have a beautiful submission by Dark Owl Publishing. These guys have been our biggest supporters, so why don't you go show them some love. You can go follow them on Instagram at Dark Owl Publishing, or you can find them at their website, darkowlpublishing.com. You can find many fantastical tales, many terrifying tidbits, and plenty of otherworldly stories. Enough to keep you satisfied for a long while. Well, this one is a bit overdue, but thank you all for tuning in to hear Garden of the Dead by John B. Rosenman. When Paul Rondo heard there was a garden of dead men on Uxorus V, he immediately booked passage on the first ship available. Such gardens were extremely rare. This was only the third such garden found, and it was so much closer than the others. And if it was anything like them at all, a truly transcendent experience awaited his father. His father. For it was all about his father, you see. His father, whom Rondo loved, even though the old man was a heartless, whining, self-pitying misanthrope who hated the whole world, and most of all, Rondo, whose paternity he sometimes questioned. Dad, I think you'll like it. Really, I do. Screw this garden. Screw Uxorus V. And above all, screw you. No, Dad, you'll love it. I've bought 2 tickets for us, see? You bastard. Your mother, may she rest in peace, was raped by a demon in her sleep. That's who your father is, not me. No, Dad, you don't really mean that. Oh, yes, I do. You're a bastard. B-A-S-T-A-R-D. Got no genes of mine in you at all. At such times, Rondo wondered why he loved rather than hated his father. He had been insulted and hurt so often that sometimes he wanted to scream and rage and do anything to make the old man see his cruelty. But then he remembered a few good times with his father from his childhood, and his anger simply vanished. Dad, just wait. In the end, you'll see I'm right and thank me, because for the first time ever, you're going to be happy. Believe me, I'm only thinking of what's right for you. His father wrinkled up his caved-in face and spat at Rondo's feet. Rondo stiffened, his eyes sharp with tears, then turned and walked away. From space, Uxorus V was a blue-green ball circled by iridescent rings. Dad, isn't it beautiful? Rondo asked, pointing through a portal. His father scowled at the view. Can't you even let me die in peace? He said. Shortly after they landed, they were met by Mr. Cripp, the garden's agent, and a native Uxorian. 5 feet tall, the alien wore a spotless white suit that contrasted sharply with his jet-black skin and glistening green eyes. Rondo noticed that he had a curious habit of licking his lips. Welcome to Uxorus V, gentlemen, he beamed, shaking hands with Rondo. Then he did the same with Rondo's father. May I ask how your trip was? Fine, Rondo said. He laughed nervously, aware of his father's dour expression. I'm sorry, the trip was hard on him, especially the jump. No need to apologize, Mr. Cripp said, his vestigial wings twitching through the cutout in his suit. Though our grand opening was fairly recent, already I've seen my fair share of irascible clients. I assume you have the necessary papers? Oh, yes, they're right here. Rondo handed them over. As you can see, I have complete rights of guardianship on the grounds of incapacity. He waited, half expecting his father's wrath. Once, the old man would burst into a torrent of invective for implying he was beginning to fade. Now, A flat statement that he was senile and unable to look after his own interests was met by silence. Rondo sighed, feeling a little guilty. The trip here seemed to have exhausted whatever had remained of his father's cantankerous spirit. Maybe he had been wrong to believe the advertisements, and this garden wouldn't make his father happy after all. If so, wouldn't it be better just to let his dad die the way he wanted to? Mr. Cripp flashed a bright smile. "It's a beautiful thing in the spring, isn't it?" he asked, waving at the garden. "The seasons are short here, but I think you'll still find it glorious." Rondo looked. The garden stretched far into the distance, surrounded by a gleaming white fence. Tall, flowery plants and other growths, none of which he wanted to examine too closely, were spaced widely apart in neat rows. The soil that supposedly possessed such remarkable properties looked just like ordinary dirt to him. He glanced at his father, who stood gazing off into infinity, then faced Mr. Cripp again. "I've heard different theories. Some say it's chemicals or radioactivity, or that Uxorus V and other two planets with a garden have similar sunlight." Gazing at Rondo's father, Mr. Cripp licked his lips. "Who knows? To be honest, Mr. Rondo, we're as baffled as anyone else by the garden's restorative powers. But despite a 30% failure rate, there can be no doubt about the crop's success. Simply put, the gardens have proved equally successful with every known sentient species." Mr. Cripp opened a folder and took out some papers. "Here's our standard planting contract. I think you will find everything in order. Do you, expect to require our services soon?" "Damn it," his father said. "Don't talk about me as if I'm not even here." "Yes," Rondo said. He sighed. "According to my father's physician, his time is quite short." Mr. Cripp's tiny wings flapped. "Ah, I am so sorry. Then may I suggest that we attend to matters promptly and let you both return to your hotel for rest? If you'll just come this way, we can have the papers finalized in no time." "Finalized?" "Fine," Rondo said. He gently took his father's arm, but the old man resisted. "Pa," he said, "don't do this to me." "Do what, Dad?" His father wiped two rheumy eyes and straightened his frail shoulders. "Please, don't make me beg." "Dad, I only want you to be happy." His father's face twisted. "You dirty pup. You don't want that at all. You only want to punish me for being strict with you when you were a boy." "Strict? You were a bitter, cruel, mean-spirited, and loveless bastard," Rondo wanted to say. Yet, perversely, he found he suddenly missed the hard-hearted presence of his youth. At least Rondo had been able to respect his father then. Anything was better than this weak whiner. Rondo stroked his father's arm. "Please, Dad, all my life, I've never once seen you smile. Just once, I want you to be happy. And just once, I want you to love me," he thought. "To look at me with joy and pride." "You bastard. Let me die my own way. In my bed." "I'm sorry," Rondo said, holding his father's arm. He turned to accompany Mr. Cripp. Rondo stood before a deep hole where his father's pale, naked body was tied upright to some kind of trellis. Shivering, the old man peered up at him. He was weeping. "Son, why did you do this to me?" Trembling, Rondo glanced at the technician who watched a monitor. "Any moment now," she said. "We can begin the irrigation phase." Rondo gazed down at the man, whose seed had shaped half of him. At the bottom, pipes began to release water. As it rose over his father's body, Rondo's lips moved silently. "Full fathom 5 thy father lies. Of his bones are coral made, those are pearls that were his eyes. Nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange." The monitor beeped. The technician turned. "He's gone," she said. Rondo watched the water reach his father's head, then rise high above it. Finally, the technician turned to the water off. A gardener came and started to shovel dirt into the hole. "Bye, Dad," Rondo whispered. "See you soon." Rondo was dead drunk when he received news that his father was starting to come up. He threw down the vidphone, staggered up, and rushed off to the garden of dead men. 2 small green spouts poked above the soil. "Is that all?" Rondo asked. Mr. Cripp, immaculate in his white suit, licked his lips. "Trust me, Mr. Rondo. Your father will grow quite quickly now." Every day, Rondo visited his father and was astonished anew by the speed with which he took shape. First came a green and yellow head, huge and lopsided. Then a broad stalk-like neck with intense saffron streaks that widened as his father's chest and torso broke the surface. Rondo saw mighty green arms emerge from the soil and powerful tendons start to flex. All was a vegetable change. All was rich and strange. And when Mr. Cripp reached out one morning, broke off a sprout from his father's head and tasted it, it was as if he had committed sacrilege. "What the hell are you doing?" "Oh, I'm sorry," Mr. Cripp said. "My people are vegetarians and sometimes we forget ourselves." He held up the sprout. "I assure you it's just dead tissue." "What is?" "Your father's hair." Mr. Cripp blushed. "I imagine it seems a bit cannibalistic, but it's actually quite good. Care to try it?" Rondo shook his head, though he had spent a great deal to have his dad planted. Making a meal of him seemed excessive. Mr. Cripp smiled. "Some of our clients have felt that consuming small portions of their loved ones actually contributes to a sense of communion." Communion? Communion? Yes. And isn't that why you're here, Mr. Rondo? To feel closer to your father? Perhaps to feel a bond with him you never felt in life. Rondo eyed his father's green and yellow form, which in less than a week had grown over a meter tall. Finally, he reached out and broke off a sprout above his dad's cauliflower ear. "I think you'll find the hair has a distinctive flavor," Mr. Cripp said. "Rather like cherries." Ever so carefully, Rondo took a taste. Then another. "Persimmon," he said. The morning his father's narrow, green, fibrous waist and mighty thighs appeared was glorious. Rondo sampled a portion from each, finding they tasted like corn. Uxorus V's 2 sons beat down, bathing the land with soothing rays. Once it rained, and his father's thick, tendril fingers twitched. As Rondo stood there getting wet, his dad's flesh started to sing from every pore. Soon, a vast chorus arose, and turning, Rondo saw that the rest of the garden's crop had joined in and were singing a hymn to the sky. Other species, including stalk-like Andalusians who resemble plants themselves, were standing with their reincarnated loved ones, some of them crying with joy. Rondo was a skeptical man, though. He decided to wait before singing hosannas. 2 days later, when Dad had reached 10 feet in height, he finally opened his eyes. For a long time, he didn't blink, and Rondo remembered Mr. Cripp saying there was a 30% failure rate. Perhaps, despite Dad's awesome size, he was mindless, like the giant plant he had become. Then his father's huge, mottled head started to move on its sturdy stalk. A glistening leaf, still wet from a recent rain, trembled just before one eye. And Rondo wondered if he should clip it so his dad could see better. But he was so immense, he simply stood there and waited. Finally, he could stand the suspense no longer. "Dad?" he said. The great head and torso instantly turned, wafting a delicious fruit-like scent in his direction, and Rondo saw that the white pupils were trained on him. He took a deep breath of his father's fragrance and tried again. "Dad, Can you hear me?" His father's face, once wrinkled and senile, had become smooth and plump. Rondo saw green lips part in a smile. "My son," his father said, his rich voice sounding like music. "I'm so glad you're here." "Paul, it's hard to describe," his father said later. "My heart's light as a feather. All my anger and despair are gone. Your mother's death, my failed business, poof, they no longer bother me." Rondo hugged his father's legs and laughed through his tears. "That's wonderful, Dad. I'm so glad. Just smell the air," his father suddenly shouted. "Ain't it peachy? And look at those suns playing catch up there. Whoopee!" Rondo peered up through his father's leaves. What was happening? Dad sounded like he was high on something. "So, you don't feel mad at me anymore, Dad?" he asked. His father shook his massive head. "No, son, and I'm sorry I was so hard and cruel toward you when you were only trying to make me happy. I knew it was wrong, but... Man, look at the melons on that whatchamacallit over there. I'd sure like to pick 'em. What species do you think it is, son?" "Dad, I don't... And there's another that looks like a haystack. Only it's got tentacles. Oh, look, it's waving at me. Hey, pal, how you doing? Watch out for matches." Rondo moved away from his father. Something was wrong. His dad had started to open up to him for the first time and share his feelings. Now he sounded drunk. "Dad?" His father grinned. "Damn, it's been so long since I felt so good. I feel downright poetic. Let's see. There was a young fellow named Dave who kept a dead whore in his cave." When he couldn't take any more dirty limericks, Rondo reported his father's behavior. A specialist came and examined his dad. "Too much water," she said, eyeing a gauge she'd inserted into his father's leg. "What do you mean?" Rondo asked. The woman looked up. "It clogs their vessels and makes them euphoric. But don't worry. I'll adjust the level and your father will be fine again in no time." Only he wasn't. More than once, as Rondo listened to yet another obscene poem or joke, he remembered Mr. Cripp's comment that Rondo had brought his father here to feel close to him. It was true. But above all, he had hoped that the garden's miraculous powers would make his miserable father happy. But not this happy. Day and night, Dad rode a perpetual high, incapable of being serious. If once he had been mean-spirited, now he was manic. One morning, as his father sang and chuckled to himself, Rondo saw Mr. Cripp and a pretty young woman approach. They were supporting a tiny old woman between them. The latter was even more sickly than his father had been, for her body was cancerous thin, and her bones strained against her skin as if eager to escape. But unlike Rondo's father just before his death, this woman's fierce will hadn't faded at all.
"Let go of me, damn it," she screeched. "Why can't you just let me die?"
She twisted her chicken neck and sprayed Mr. Cripp's face with spittle.
"Take your hands off me, you bastard son of a one-legged whore. What kind of pansy-ass faggot wears a white suit, for Christ's sakes?"
"Mother, please," begged the young woman. "Believe me, this is only for your own good. Trust me."
"Trust you? Ha! And now you hate me. You just want to torture me for being strict and raising you to be strong."
"That's not true," Elena said, fighting back tears. They stopped beside a screened-off hole, thinking of how the woman's accusation of her daughter resembled his father's of him. Rondo started to come to her defense, but his father's merry voice responded first. "Madam, I am Robert T. Rondo, and I can assure you that your daughter doesn't hate you. Believe me, she is only doing this for your happiness." The old woman jerked like a spastic puppet and peered up at his father.
"Jesus H. Christ. Will you take a look at this? Quick, somebody handed me a can of weed killer."
She pointed a stick-like finger at him.
"Hey, this guy's got grapes growing where his balls ought to be."
"Look," Rondo's father said, "I'm just saying you should show some patience and trust in your daughter."
"Yeah, well, who asked your opinion? Anyone who's got collard greens growing out of his ass ain't exactly a sterling character reference, if you ask me."
For the first time since his rebirth, Rondo's father looked shocked. He turned and gazed down at his son. "Paul, This is the way I used to treat you, isn't it? Footsteps, turning. Rondo watched attendants come and remove the barriers around the hole. Soon after, still screeching, the old woman was lowered into the ground. She came up quicker than his father, emitting vermilion sprouts that smelled like gardenias. 5 days later, she was as tall as Rondo and elegantly lovely. A crimson flower on a willowy stalk. In a way, Rondo found her transformation even more amazing than his father's. If his foul-mouthed old man had become a robust, jovial plant, this one screeching harridan was ripening toward a perfect blossom. Long, leathery lashes fringed her sleeping eyes, and petals dappled her sweet face. When Monia, Elena's mother, reached 9 feet, she stopped growing. By that time, Rondo's father had fallen in love with her. They waited anxiously for Monia to wake up. Would she be as changed and cheerful as his dad? Or hellishly furious that she had been forced to endure an afterlife in which she was rooted to the ground like a common weed? At last came the moment when her eyes fluttered open. For an eternity, she stared vacantly at his father across the 12 feet that separated them. Rondo held his breath, expecting Moina to scream and start hurling insults. As Mr. Cripp had informed him, there was no certainty of the outcome. But then her blue eyes brightened, and she smiled. "Hello, big boy," she purred. "I've been dreaming about you." As they entered summer, Rondo watched Dad woo Moina. One morning, his father extended a green arm toward her as she reached out in turn. Despite their efforts, they couldn't quite touch. "You're the prettiest flower in my garden, Moina," his father said. "Am I, Robert?" "Yep. Wish I could pick you." Rondo saw Moina's red face redden still more. Hard to believe this was the sharp-tongued witch he had seen before. "They look so happy together," Elena said. "Only sometimes I wonder if I should ever have brought her here." "What do you mean? Of course you should have. Isn't she happy now? And aren't you? Don't you feel closer to her? I know I do with my dad." "Yes, I do. But look around. Where have all the others gone? There used to be so many with their loved ones." "What are you saying?" "Maybe there's something wrong." Rondo frowned. "Have you, told your mother it's temporary?" She lowered her eyes. "No." "Have you?" He shook his head. "Somehow I felt it was worth it, that it was justified." "Me too. But, Paul, let's be honest. We did it mainly for us, so we could have a last chance with our parents." He didn't answer. A few weeks later, his father moaned, "Boy, I feel blue." "Why's that, Dad?" "Well, just look at me, son. I can't move. I can't go and hold her, and she can't come over here either." "That's to be expected." "I know. It's just frustrating. I know I can't make love as I used to, but it would sure be nice to horse around a little." Suddenly he laughed, jiggling a blossom on his head. "Hey, why can't they transplant one of us so we're closer?" Rondo glanced at Elena and her mother, who were listening. "I'm afraid not, Dad." "Why?" "The soil. It can do almost anything, except support 2 people close together." Moina spoke up. "What would happen if they tried?" Elena sighed. "The soil would quickly stop nourishing you." "Son," his father said, "is there anything else I should know?" Rondo met his eyes with difficulty. "You and Moina are seasonal." "Seasonal? What does that mean?" "It means fall's coming." He waited, fearing his father's wrath as never before. But when his father spoke, his voice was dead. "How long?" "Dad, the seasons are short here." "I see." And that no doubt explains the way I've felt lately. What's wrong, Robbie? Moina cried. Are you sick? His father raised an arm, which looked slightly withered. I'm sorry, Mother, Elena said. I was selfish. She threw her arms about her mother's slender stalk. Moina started to resist, then embraced her. It's all right, she said. Since my death, I've changed. You know, Rondo's father said, until this moment I didn't realize how much of a bastard I used to be. Son, you've treated me the way I always treated you. You thought mainly about yourself. But I love you. I know you do. His father glanced yearningly at Moina. Dad, can you possibly forgive me? His father sighed. If she can, so can I. Besides, you were at least partly motivated by love. Seeing his father's pain, Rondo started toward him. Then he heard a sound and turned. Mr. Cripp stood in his blinding white suit. Sir and Madam, he said, may I see you both individually at your convenience. After boarding the ship, Rondo took a seat as far as he could from the others. 10 light minutes out, however, he spotted Elena, whom he had avoided because of shame. He sighed, then rose and went to her. May I join you? She didn't reply. After a moment, he settled into the seat beside her. Did you visit Mr. Cripp? She finally asked. Yes, did you? Yes. He offered me a new option, an amazing breakthrough. The same with me. He said they could now change my father from seasonal to perennial. She nodded. And my mother no longer just dies in the fall. They were silent while 2 million miles passed. Did you take it? She asked. He thought of those terrible last days. His father's majestic bulk had shriveled and shrunk, deflating like a punctured balloon. In the end, it had resembled a tiny, dried-up husk. Yes, he said. So did I. Another 1 million miles passed. 5 million. He reached out, touching her hand. Coming back? Yes. And you? He nodded. I have to. Good. She smiled, then squeezed his hand. Perhaps we can travel here together to see our parents come up again in the spring.
Thank you for tuning in tonight. Can any of us really blame Rondo here? I mean, it does run in his roots. When you get the opportunity to turn over a new leaf, don't you take it? Thank you once again to Dark Owl Publishing for this fantastic piece of work, and thank you to the mind of John B. Rosenman, who allowed us to read it. Show some love to Dark Owl Publishing in the links below, and follow me at Poppa Redwood Reads on Instagram. You can find updates, fun facts about the authors, and sneak peeks to future stories. I hope you all have a good evening, and enjoy some R&R.